What's up, Hippo lovers? T90s Titans League semifinals. The Viper against Villese Platinum League. And this is the map draft. This is the Civ draft. And we directly jump into game number 1. It will be played on Gold Rush. We have the Viper in his signature color yellow playing Berbers against Villese's Byzantines. And now, all the smart people, what is the opening for both of those civilizations? Who knows it? Who guesses it? Well, you were incorrect, because the opening actually is going to be Wolf Rush by both players. Villese gets the Spearman and tries to Wolf Rush, tries to exploit anything, but Viper is fully walled on the other side. The Viper does the same, but Villese fully walled as well. No army being built in Feudal Age. We are jumping to Castle Age, where both players heavily go for camels, adding town centers here as well. No biggies. The Viper went on to some monks a bit earlier than Villese did. Both players added town centers and both did that next to stone. Then we had Villese building a castle in the center, tries to quick wall this, both heavily going for camels. As you can see, conversions are happening here. Castle not fully quick walled, but fight at the left hand side was won. Remember, 15% cheaper for the Viper, 25% cheaper for Villese here in Castle Age, but Bloodlines as an option for the Berber player. Mass camels, castle will go up though, and Villese will have a beautiful position. And I looked up, okay, why was Villese able to build the castle a bit earlier? Both actually collected exactly the same resources at that time. Simply Viper more gold, while Villese was looking into more stone, and that's why the castle was a bit earlier. And Viper tries to get his castle up as well. We'll get that eventually, and we are jumping into the situation where both players getting castles up, and we're contesting the center, trying to get the gold here. Still mathing everything. Remember, now 20% cheaper, and Bloodlines against still 25% cheaper. Big engagement coming up where the Viper feels like, okay, now is the time to snipe the traps. Villese dives here at the left hand side, as we can see. Castle Fire helping out quite a bit. Upgrade still kicking in here for the Viper, and that's a massive engagement. Viper with more HP. But Villese with the hill has his castle, is now getting fletching as well. The Viper debating quite nicely and will eventually find all the kills against the castles, but suffers quite a bit, and that is the only gold that he can really access, while Villese has way more control here, and Viper really struggles to get onto proper gold. We see camel versus camel engagements over and over again. Obviously Viper not having the option to tag into full halberdiers here means he is stuck on his camel choice, and eventually Villese, who has the wrong name there at the top, is winning this one. So 1-0 for Villese, not Mr. Yo. That will be fixed for game 2. Game 2, the Viper's home map begins. Now Villese at the top. Mayans for Villese. The Viper is playing Chinese, so a very strong civilization pick here from both players. And we see a Drush opening by Villese. Viper is getting annoyed by that quite a bit. Is pushing those militia away. Behind this, lots of walls, and the Viper wouldn't be the Viper if he isn't trying to pull something out of his head and quick waltz those in. But still, the two militia taking out the house, still going for some aggression, but certainly a nice move to let his villagers work a bit more in peace. After that, both players went for one archer range, and we were looking into, or double archer range even, against the late second archer range by Villese, and we're looking into relatively even Castle Age timings. That resulted into both players going pretty much mirror here, right? We have some skirms mixed in, mainly crossbow by the Viper, some elite skirms here by Villese as well, trying to hold that hill, double archer range. Relatively early monastery to deal with those knights that the Viper was adding. Now siege workshop by the Viper in the center, something we are still lacking from Villese, and that meant that the next engagement was a bit on the tricky side. Siege workshop certainly late, was already thinking about the castle, now the siege workshop, while the Viper was already basically having a second Magnum before the siege workshop even finished, and therefore Villese could not hold this crucial hill in front of his base. Was even a villager, so caught up there, but Still a pretty tricky situation for him. Tries to micro like a madman, but obviously against double Mangonel with relatively even range numbers, he had to give this one up to not lose his whole army. He's trying to go for some engagements, but it's not pretty against double Mangonel there, even if you have some skirmishers mixed in. Therefore, giving up this hill, and then Viper was just controlling so much more. Mangonel dance at all times. We had Villese trying to get the castle up, but not that easy there. Tries to go for some conversions, and Viper just constantly took better Mangonel fights, as we can see here. Cross was dying, villagers dying here as well. That one is a 1-for-1 after the other one died. Villese is trying his very best, but as you can see, Mangonel count still in favor of our Viking, or like Norwegian. And then we are reaching Imp. Trap War is about to start, and you see the Viper. No military basically. One Mangonel only, one trap only, and is now checking into more stables and went for full cavalier play. Interesting. Viper castle here. Kind of a no man's land, but he's thinking about the very long game. Double gold control and on a very high hill, while other players would have tried to double down and think about the trap play here. He set himself up for the long game and was just dominant with all his cavaliers, just swarmed everything. Eager numbers never really got high enough there. Traps are dying, starting town center was lost, more raids everywhere, and Villese had to tap this one out, forcing at least 5 games in this set. Viper puts it at 1-1. Game 3, Fortified Clearing between those two players that already got their ticket. For Red Bull, we have the Viper playing Sicilians against Villese with Poles. And Viper went for a wild strategy. He actually tried to forward on this map, and you can see he's now reaching feudal age, 950, and look where his villagers are. Just so far away from where they want to pressure. Obviously at the top would have been way shorter, didn't properly scout that, and yeah, now you can see eco upgrades are coming in, men-at-arms are coming in, but probably a misjudgment there on how the map looked like. His scouting prior to this, not too wild, didn't really check the top and felt like he had to go there. And obviously Villese, one of the very best in reacting calmly to those situations, just walled, even delayed loom till an incredible time. As you can see, like 60 minutes in, all the aggression, still no loom. Siege Workshop is now coming, and he continues defending quite nicely. Better economy, Poles advantage as well, and has a massive advantage going into the mid game. Then we're fighting for the center. Viper actually gets the better of it, gets more relics. In the end, he will flirt with 7 relics, while Villese sits at only 2. We got some knights, we got some light cav. Viper contested that quite a bit, is sitting on 4 town centers himself, while Villese, he is thinking about imp a bit earlier, and Viper still behind in villagers. Castle now up here for the Viper and also for Villese, but as we all know, Sicilians built that one so much faster, and therefore no chance for Villese. Has to delete this one. Light cav count pretty even. Kind of interesting that we had relics in the center and at the side still up for grabs, and both decided to go for the castle at the top here. But imp is coming in, unique tech is coming in as well. And we see that, yeah, just the way better economy there for Poles is really kicking in. Food economy completely out of control. 50 Polish farmers there. Now we get crop rotation. Cavaliers already taking down the first castle with the help of the traps. Some villagers are dying here, and Viper, he needs to come up with something. He's now taking into some spearmen, later halberdiers, and some cavaliers. But fights were not that pretty, and as you can see, Viper took fight after fight. Economy never to where he wanted to be, and now after taking an even fight, he sees you actually tech to elite Obuch behind this, and you can look at the tech tree, guys, but at least Viper believed there's no single option. As you can see, 6 relics, 7th one was coming home. Yeah, still more control in the center for Villese. It still, on paper, feels like a playable game. 7 relics against 2. But what unit do you build against Elite Obuch? Thumbringless, Arbeless, maybe an option, but doesn't excite me or did not excite Viper. Villese goes up to 1. Game 4 was a wild one. The Viper is playing Saracens against Vilese's Magyars. Just a day earlier, Villese lost to MBL. It just got stomped against Magyars there, and this time he can play them. Obviously one of the best civilizations on this very map, simply because you can go for so many scouts, and indeed that's the opening that both players opted for. Viper tries toward the map, goes for lots of spearmen, tries to make something happen, but Villese obviously gets lots of control, runs in with scouts, loses one, and will pick a lot of villager if it wasn't for this house, if it wasn't for this house, if it wasn't for this house, if it wasn't for this house and those palisades. And Viper just really showing off his quick wall skills, that he was absolutely on point. And here loses a villager, no, gets another gate up, and Viper actually gets out of there with very minimal losses, but doesn't find any damage in return. Still something absolutely reasonable here for Saracens. Gets into the spot where he voids lots of damage. As you can see, EcoKD 0-0, 3TC play against 3TC play, goes for Camel Monk and sets himself up for the long game. Then takes some beautiful engagements, obviously fighting better there with his camels against the Knight light cav composition, gets some good conversions and gets some clear ups, and exactly what he was looking for. Better economy behind this one. Relic setup not too great for him, will get 3 in the end against the 2 though. And then we are going towards Imperial Age. The Viper now sees, okay, Villese is attacking for pikemen and goes for CA and gets quite some damage done here. Villese, after those disappointing fights against the Mongol camels, felt like he had to switch away, and Viper in full control. As you can see, 40 population lead here, absolutely owning this one. And now he sees, okay, my CA are so good, tags into Men-at-Arms, is preparing a gem switch because he knows, okay, my opponent goes for mass halberdiers. But that actually didn't happen. And now he sees the C8 switch. Viper then deletes some buildings again, will build some archery ranges, and stays on full CA, won't tech into longswords. But interesting that he was so willing to go into a heavy tech switch. Now still 35 population lead, mass CA here, Viper in full control, just continues to put on the pressure and looks extremely dominant, finds more villager kills and gets into a stream scenario, right? Triple castle setup, relic advantage, and can basically go for his stream units. Will also get heavy camels with all the HP upgrades. But now we take a horrible fight here. As you can see, numbers not really there, and also forgetting Parthian tactics against already recurve bow. CA plus lots of army was lacking, and that's where Viper really lost a massive fight, lost so much, loses his castle, loses lots of his traps, tries to rebuild the castle a bit further back, but now the CA ball suddenly becomes completely unmanageable for the Viper. And just to show you one scene where you kind of see how tough the late game became for Viper after this one. He tried to find some openings, but really couldn't. As you can see here, runs through 3 castles, CA around as well, lots of stuff dying, and he was trying to prepare an attack at the left hand side. That got shut down as well, that's not happening, while also getting cleared up here. Loses all his skirmishes against all the Magyar Hussars, and that was kind of an indicator on how the next 15 minutes basically looked like. And Viper, or the next 8 minutes, and Viper didn't find an answer to the mass heavy CA and Magyar Hussar. And Viper had to tap this one out. 3-1 lead here for Villese. Pretty strong game. Game 5 on Arena was just madness. Villese and the Blue Trunks playing Turk, the Viper playing Bohemians. Opening kind of as expected, 1 stable, 1 barracks, going for some scouts, spearmen, monks. Light cav obviously pretty easy for our Turk player. Both adding 1 to C instantly, so no heavy relic commitment, but still we fought for it quite a bit. In the end it was 3 relics for Villese, and the Viper got 2. Had the monastery here at the front, relatively exposed, but never really lost the monastery, so no big problem there. Unit choice is CA for our Turk player, and the Viper basically only played bombard cannon for quite some time. We had some aggression here at the front, but Viper kind of made the defense happen, rewalled multiple times, some pikemen here for the defense, and then we basically had an endless dance of bombard cannon with 14 range against Hufnietzsche with 13 range here for the Bohemians, and I can show you some of those highlights. We in the end had the full army composition, heavy CA, all the upgrades, 100 HP, bombard cannon count crazy high, Hufnice count crazy high as well, massive shots over and over again, and there was just an endless dance. And I could show you 10 different fights that had this caliber. We can see multiple times Hufnice moving forward. Viper tries to expand a bit. Not that easy. Bombard towers are getting some control here. And every single time the bombard cannons or the Hufnice overextended a bit, the opponent was jumping on it quite quickly, as we can see here. CA finding some kills, bombard cannons shooting from distance, but Viper saving them quite nicely. Now again, bombard cannons in the back, killing some of the skirmishes. Hufnice overextending a tiny bit, bombard shots, and that's basically what we saw multiple minutes over and over again. Hufnice now pushing, obviously nice splash damage there. Bombard cannons in the back, and then suddenly tech switch out of no man's land. Champion tech by the Turk player, something Viper certainly did not anticipate. Ground attacks more against the archery range than against the 200 swordsman at that time. Bombard cannons now pushing forward, and Viper, a bit of a mismicro, went in, went out, actually switched into some hand cannons. Those arrived relatively late though, and Viper got pushed back a bit here. Then we saw more CAs pushing in. Champions just got quite a good look at those. And Cannoneers all died after this one. We still have some in the back. Now trying to go for the Hufnice. Viper tries to go through the gate, opens the wall a bit here, tries to save his units, but that was obviously costly, and you were starting to get really scared because those hussars jumped on the Hufnice over and over again. Viper barely has any gold income left, while we see Villese still has some gold here. We have some harassment on that end, though Viper even trying to steal that one away, but the main story is the Hufnice going down, and Viper constantly had to sell wood and food to get himself more Hufnice out, and well, it got tricky. Felt like the bombard cannons in the back were a bit safer, but Viper kind of pushed with the skirms and halberdiers quite nicely. Villese pushed back massively, but in the end it all came down to the bombard cannons and the better army composition with the Hussar CA. Look at that KD, just so much more in favor for Villese pushing in here, and this could have also been a 15-minute recap for this game alone, but in the end Villese takes it 4-1, and even Viper has to agree. GL iron the final. Well played, Villese. Good luck in the finals.